Okay, so first, on your first online day, just looking at a few of these questions that may have messed you up. And obviously, before you hand it in the next day I see you, I'll let you ask some in person. I'm thinking that 1H probably screwed you up. I'll leave that one for a discussion in person so you can tell me what you tried. I think number twos are probably pretty good. All you need to do is multiply through. Just be careful, okay? So like for 2a, let's say, it's 3a brackets 2 minus b. So obviously you multiply through and get 6a minus 3ab. Now the be careful part is don't then look at it and say, oh wait, I can factor a 3a out and then do 3a times 2 minus b. Okay, because I'm hoping you notice these are the same. So I want you to stop at this spot, because otherwise you get here and it's like, oh, but I was supposed to multiply through, and then you go back to 6a minus 3a, and then you'd be like, oh, wait, I could factor a 3 out, and then it becomes like an endless loop. So don't do that, all right? Stop here. When it does say simplify, but when I meant simplify, I meant like when you FOIL, when you multiply these two binomials together, put the like terms together if you can, but don't then try to factor things out. Okay, and number three though, please factor things out. Okay. In number four, if I was a betting nun, I would bet the ones that probably messed you up were 4G and F and G. So let's just take a little look at F. It is, where'd it go? I moved the sheet and then I lost it. So it is y is equal to 2 minus x over 3 plus x. Okay, so you want to get the bottom off the bottom, so bring it up. So it becomes y brackets 3 plus x is equal to 2 minus x. And you want to get the x's on the same side by themselves, but right now there's an x stuck in this bracket. So multiply through by the y. 3y plus xy equals 2 minus x. And now take the x's to the same side. So I would probably bring my minus x over because I hate having my unknown as a negative. So it becomes a positive equals 2 minus 3y. It makes absolutely no difference which way you go, but I always try to get the fewest negatives as possible. And then here's the part that I was thinking might have messed you up. You need to get the x by itself. It goes back to the grade 11 stuff where we were trying to do that, because you can't divide by y, because if you divide this by y, you have to divide this by y, and now you still can't add these x's together because this one's over y. So what do? Do you remember the trick? I hope so. I'll pause a minute and let you think about it. Remember that the trick was factor the x out, okay, and then solve for x. In G, 1 over r is equal to 1 over r1 plus 1 over r2, and it wants you to solve for r1. Okay, now some of you maybe took the 1 over r2 over and then I don't know, cross multiply. Like, you can't end up with a fraction in a fraction, okay? So my recommendation would be multiply by the lowest common denominator. What is the lowest common denominator? It is R1, R2. So either multiply every term by this or take every term to this and then cancel the denominator out. Okay, you're level 1, so I'll let you try it from there. But I will answer questions on it on the next day I see you if you need it. I just thought I'd give you that little hint. You should end up with having to factor out like you did over here. I think number 5 probably didn't cause issues, and I had promised I would talk about sig figs. Okay, so number 6, which technically you didn't have to do your first night, but you will have to do before you hand it in the next time I see you. So remember sig figs. So if you have something like 40, it only has one significant digit. The 0 doesn't count. But if you have 40 with a decimal in a 0, then this has 3. So zeros with a decimal do count, zeros after a decimal. If you had 0.000040, These front zeros do not count. So this would only have 2. But if I put a 5 in front here, 0, 0, 0, 4, 0, now they all count. So remember, the rule is you start with the non-zero number that is furthest to the left and you count right. And you keep counting right until you hit a 0 or until you hit the end if there's a decimal. Okay, so if there's no decimal here, there's only 1. Here you start with the non-zero number furthest to the left, with this, which is this 4, and you count to the right, and you count all the way to the end because there's a decimal. This one, first non-zero number is the 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so zeros in between non-zero numbers count. Zeros at the end count if there is a decimal. Zeros at the beginning do not count if there's no number in front of them. So that should help with number 6 in your counting. Now, it wants you to do 2 steps. The first question is, how many significant digits does it have? And the second question is, write it in scientific notation. Remember, when you write it in scientific notation, the number of sig figs has to match. So if I were to write this one in scientific notation, I would write 4.0 times 10 to the negative 1, 2, 3, 4. And it had 2, it still has 2. If I were to write this last example here, it would be 5.0, but I have to keep all the sig figs, and there were 7 sig figs, so it'll be 0, 0, 0, 4, 0 times 10 to the 1. Doesn't really seem worth it, does it? Because you still have to write out just as many digits. Okay? I say that because you are really going to love me when you get to question number, letter E and letter G. Okay? You're going to love it when you have to write it in scientific notation. All right, on the back, simplify these and then see which one you get. So what would I do here? I would either I'd probably add the bracket together first. So find the common denominator, add the 2 fractions together, multiply by 3, and then simplify. Down here, my first step, I would multiply by y over x. Remember, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So I would, oops, where's my sheet? I would do x minus 1 over y times y over x and simplify it from there, and then see which one it matched. In number 4, find the common denominator so that you can add these together. Number 5, factor. Number 6, factor. Number 7, factor. Okay? So that's your math sheet. Hopefully it is not too rough. Next video will be kinematics.